That's a great question, Paniotis, and thank you very much for inviting me today. The difference that makes the difference starts with what goes on up here in our minds. It very quickly translates to how we feel. And then from how we feel is the actions we take. So, if we can figure out, well, what is it that goes on in our minds? I would suggest the difference that makes the difference is in the questions we ask ourselves. So when we ask ourselves open questions, the right questions, we start a process up here of answering that question. Sometimes when we can't answer that question, we have to go here into the feelings, into the emotions, and we have to figure out, well, what is it that we want out of life? So, in the business of financial planning, the life insurance business, the life insurance profession, the questions often we ask ourselves is, how do I increase my production? Easy question to ask. And then we perhaps go through some books, we watch some videos, we might reflect back on people we've heard on stage, and we say to ourselves, well, okay, if we see more people ask for bigger premiums, or actually before we do that, but if we see more people and we engage with them, create a relationship with them, figure out what's really important to them, and then advise them what is the right premium to fix their problem. We think that we're going to increase our production, but this is a very one-dimensional level of thinking, which I have been doing for, I would say, decades. And for decades, I have increased gradually my production. There's no doubt there has been success. But that success, I today realize, was done the hard way. Because now I realize the plans that are formulated on a piece of paper, etc., are great. It's a wonderful starting place. But actually, there needs to be a little bit more to it than that. And it's in the questions we ask ourselves where we can make quantum leaps in life. So one question I ask myself is, what's my 4-minute mile? That question comes from a gentleman by the name of Roger Bannister. Roger Bannister was the first gentleman on the planet to run a 4-minute mile. This was in the 1950s, at a time when scientists and doctors said that if anybody attempted to run a 4-minute mile, not only would they collapse at the end of it, they'd actually die. And I find that very fascinating, that their version of the truth today, some years on, is no version of the truth. In fact, I recently watched a video of Roger Bannister running the 4-minute mile, and he was so eager to get out of the starting blocks. He had a man in front of him who was the pace man, and he was so eager within the first few minutes to overtake him and get going that he shouted out to him, faster, faster. Yet, the leader simply created the pace. By creating that pace, what was really interesting was that at 1 minute 58, at the halfway point, they'd actually run the 2 miles, and Roger says in his own interview that at that time, his mind and his body started to separate. What that suggests to me is that sometimes there is so much going on up here, we don't listen to this. Our heart, our body, our emotion, we're constantly listening to this. And sometimes he made a decision, is what we hear in the interview. And the decision was to break the 4-minute mile. What he did halfway through was to let go and just let his body run. And I noticed in the video that as he let go, his body relaxes, his style of running relaxes, his stride increases. He makes it look so much easier. Did he know that was going on? I don't think so. I think all he allowed himself to do was run the race. So as he runs the race and he completes the next half mile, in fact, the next mile, I beg your pardon, and he's now within 1 minute of finishing the race, his mind comes back in and says, right, now it's time to sprint. Now he engages his mind to run the final lap. And this is the time when we see that mental energy translate into the body, and his stride becomes even further, but the energy comes in. And he completes the 4 minute mile within 4 minutes. First man to ever break the mile. And within a month of him running the 4 minute mile, proving to himself and the world it was possible, several people broke it within a month. And nobody died. So, my question is, what's my 4 minute mile? What's our 4 minute mile? Take a moment to, once you've written the plan, to just ask ourselves a series of questions and connect from here to your heart. And once you've done that, let it go and let your gut feeling take over. My friends, I wish you a wonderful 2015, end of 2015, and an even more successful 2016. My hope, my prayer, my wishes for you is that you fulfill your heart's desire. Namaste.